If love comes with rituals, who wrote them? Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Henderson, and this is Up Next, your new weekly ritual for the arts, culture, theater, and shared stories. Today's episode is called Rites of Love, and it's inspired by a powerful performance at Casa Gorordo Museum, a heritage house in Cebu City, Philippines, that has witnessed generations of courtship, marriage, devotion, and expectation. But today we're not inside the house. We're at the Tops Media Center, TMC 105.1, the most Cebu radio. Because this conversation, it's not about a building. It's about us. When we say love, we often imagine something spontaneous. Chemistry, butterflies, a spark, a choice. But love has never just been emotion. Love has structure. Love has choreography. Love has ritual. And for centuries, especially in colonial Philippines, love moved through very specific stages. Harana, supervised visits, letters, parental approval, engagement, marriage under the eyes of church and community. Love was not private. It was witnessed, negotiated, sanctioned. It had to pass through rites. And that word, rites, RITES, matters. Because a rite is not just a tradition. A rite is a threshold. It's something you go through in order to be recognized as changed. Single to married, daughter to wife, son to head of a household, two families into one alliance. Love was personal, yes, but it was also a social currency. And here's the uncomfortable question. Was love the foundation? Or was it the bonus? Because historically, marriage was often about stability, reputation, economic stability, social positioning, religious obedience. If affection followed, beautiful. If not, endurance was expected. And before we dismiss that as the past, we need to ask ourselves, how much of that script still lives in us? We say we're modern now. We choose our partners, we date freely, we live together before marriage. Some choose not to marry at all. We talk about boundaries, compatibility, emotional intelligence. But even now, love is still performed. We curate proposals. We stage engagement shoots. We announce anniversaries online. We measure devotion in visibility. We still want witnesses. We still want blessings. We still want our love to be seen and validated. The stage has changed. The ritual has not disappeared. It has evolved. The performance at the Casa Gorordo Museum invites us to look at the old rites. But what interests me more is the invisible rites we carry. What were you taught about love? Not what you believe now. What were you taught? That love requires sacrifice, that love hurts, that love waits, that love saves, that love means staying, adjusting, that love is your greatest achievement. Because before we ever fall in love, we inherit a template. From family, from religion, from culture, from stories, from films, from silence. And when we finally choose someone, We are not choosing from a blank page. We are choosing from a script. In the 19th century, courtship was supervised. A suitor didn't just pursue a woman. He pursued approval from parents, from community, from church. Love belonged to everyone, and that public nature gave it legitimacy. Today, we say love is private, but is it really? If your relationship never appears online, does it feel less real? If your family disapproves, does it shake your certainty? If your community questions it, do you start questioning yourself? Even in freedom, we still crave recognition. That is a right. Let's talk about marriage specifically. For many generations, marriage was less about self-fulfillment and more about stability. A good match meant security. It meant continuity. It meant reputation intact. There was very little room for, I'm not happy. Happiness was not the central metric. Duty was. Now we live in an era where happiness is everything, and that shift is powerful. But it is also destabilizing, because if happiness becomes the only standard, then what happens when it fluctuates? What happens when love is quiet instead of thrilling? What happens when commitment feels heavy? Are we less tolerant now, or just more honest? What fascinates me about reflecting on rites of love is that history complicates our assumptions. We often imagine the past as oppressive and the present as liberated, but it's not that simple. There were arranged marriages that grew into tenderness. There were love marriages that turned into quiet suffering. There were women who found influence within constraint. There were men who does not only limit women, it scripts men too. Provide, lead, do not cry, do not fail, do not hesitate, inherit the business, marry respectably, hold the family name steady. These are rights too, and breaking them comes at a cost. So maybe the deeper question is not, were old love traditions wrong? But rather, what were they protecting? And what were they preventing? Traditions often exist to create order, but order can suffocate individuality. Freedom, on the other hand, allows authenticity. But freedom can feel unstable, so we stand between two inheritances: stability with constraint, autonomy with uncertainty. And every generation negotiates the balance. What would it mean to create new rights consciously? Not because culture dictates them, not because family pressures them, but because they serve love. What does commitment look like when both people are whole? What does devotion look like without ownership? What does marriage look like without hierarchy? What does partnership look like without performance? These are not abstract questions. They affect how we date, how we argue, how we forgive, how we leave, how we stay. I think sometimes we mistake rebellion for freedom. We reject old rituals without replacing them. We abandon structure without designing healthier ones. But humans need ritual. We need markers. We need moments that say, this is important. The problem is not ritual. The problem is rigidity. When rites stop serving love and start controlling it. And here's where it becomes personal. Because no matter how progressive we think we are, when we fall in love, our old teachings resurface. We fear abandonment. We fear inadequacy. We fear disapproval. We fear being too much. We fear not being enough. Those fears are not random. They were taught, sometimes subtly, sometimes loudly. So before we critique the 19th century, we must ask, what invisible 21st century scripts are shaping us right now? Productivity, individual success, aesthetic compatibility, emotional perfection. We say we want real love, but do we allow it to be imperfect? If the walls of the Casa Gerardo Museum could speak, maybe they would not defend the past. Maybe they would simply say, every generation believes it loves better than the one before. And every generation is partly right because love evolves, but it never exists outside culture. So the invitation today is not nostalgia and it's not condemnation. It's awareness to examine the rights we inherited, to question the ones that harm, to preserve the ones that deepen connection, and to create new ones that honor equality, consent, agency, and mutual growth. Because love, real love, should not shrink you. It should not erase you. It should not demand performance at the cost of authenticity. It should expand you. And maybe that is the right we need now. Not obedience, not endurance, but conscious choice. Again and again and again. So today, inspired by Rites of Love at the Casa Gerardo Museum, we are not just revisiting history. We are examining ourselves, our desires, our fears, our inherited expectations, our courage to rewrite. And this is up next. I'm Sarah Henderson on TMC 105.1. Today we're asking, if love has rituals, are they serving you? Or are you serving them? Stay with me, because in the next segment, we'll unpack how these rights show up in modern relationships and whether we're truly freer or simply differently scripted. And today, I'd like to introduce to you our guest. We actually have two guests this afternoon, but I'd like to start off with the Senior Supervisor for Operations, focusing on the Casa Gerardo Museum and the Cabilian Center. We have Mr. Daniel Orin Ren Alatraca, everyone. Good afternoon, Ren.
Good afternoon, Miss Sarah.
Miss Kaayo.
Well, it's have to be formal.
Call me Sarah, please.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, Sarah.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. So obviously we're inspired by the for the past 2 weekends already, I understand you have had the performance of Rites of Love at the Casa Gerardo Museum, and I think that we would still be able to catch that in the coming weekends.
Yes, you can still catch it on the next few weekends. It will actually branch out to early March because
That would be great.
yeah,
Yes.
because I think when we had Rites of Love, when we conceptualize it, we were thinking like, this has to be for the students. Like we have to showcase this because when does love bloom at its peak? It's mostly when you're young, especially when you're in high school or in college. So that has been our target market for the past years. But recently, we decided upon, you know what? Why don't we branch it out? We have to open this to the public, and we already inviting everyone, whether young or old, to really reconnect and rediscover their rights, their traditions of romantic rituals.
So I think that you've mentioned that We were targeting the teenagers, I guess, or the
Mm.
students that would be high school and college. Would that be
Yes,
correct?
like senior high school when we were conceptualizing it back in 2018. So that's how long it has been. So
Yeah, I didn't realize it's been that long.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Uh-huh.
but we really wanted, like, you know what, let's have it with college students. It was initially college students, then we eventually, branched out, as also a way for us to have a more reach to students. So we included senior high school
Mm-hmm.
students, and then eventually we're now in this stage, in this very special activity wherein we open it to the public, you know.
I'm glad that you opened it to the public because I can understand, okay, high school students, college students, well, whatever age, it's like, okay, that's when we probably experienced our first love, our first heartbreak, fine. But the thing is, love has no age. It doesn't
Yes.
choose when it's going to come, right?
Yes.
And we've seen so many stories already, and we've witnessed so many stories wherein someone finding love after in her 30s, in her 40s, or later in life. So I think the opening it up to the public is a it's a great move because for I'm sure that there's so many who are interested, and then we are free to be able to watch this. Amongst the others, what's this? The students. I think my thing now is like, why are we focusing on rights of love? Why not have a story that's just your usual love story that would probably pique the interest of many young people?
Okay, so well, we have to us in the team, like, we have to look at the museum as like more than just a facility. So we
Mm-hmm.
also need to look at it, in terms of its stories, of its history. And the Gordo family back then, they were very, they were very traditional and very deeply conservative. Because it used to be the home of the first Filipino bishop of Cebu, Bishop Juan Gorordo, that the namesake of Gorordo Avenue. So it was a very conservative household, and I don't, we don't think that, like, love is really in their MO, more like prayer, or, religious processions. But the thing is, the way people see Casa Gordo over the years is that this place looks, it's an ideal setting, a romantic setting. It has a lovely azotea, it has a lovely garden. So, that, like, it has become fixated in the mind of people, like, this is a romantic place.
And I'm sure that there had been, well, we do know for a fact that there had been weddings being held
Oh
there.
yes.
My professor in college, Sir Bian Fernandez, had his wedding there. I
Ah,
know that for a fact. Then I am sure that it's well, it's seen so many dates as well,
yes.
and I'm sure that some of the proposals have been made there at Casa Gordo.
I've seen a few.
You've
I mean,
witnessed a
not
few,
not really a
yes,
few, but actually it's
more
quite
than a
many,
few,
more than a few.
yes.
So they usually, like, call us, and this is way before pandemic, when I was, like, really into, really working in the front lines of the operations of the museum. And they would, like, a guy would call us for a booking for a
For
book tour.
oh,
Then they would,
asking for assistance.
yes, they would ask for assistance. So, like, could you please tour my fiance, because I'm planning a proposal. And there are also times that we are also caught off guard. Like, the guy just dropped on one knee, and it's like, oh,
And you
okay,
didn't know that that was the
this is
plan.
not part of the tour, but I am
Uh-huh.
thankful I'm part of this very beautiful moment. But yeah, I think we should move on with the tour. So it's like, we're gonna
But
do
it,
that.
it is a beautiful moment.
Yes, it is a very beautiful moment. Especially, they normally do it in the azotea, in the
Hmm.
veranda.
The
So
azotea is very beautiful. And for those of you who haven't visited the Casa Gordo Museum, maybe the last time you've been there was during your field trip in high school or grade school. Go back. It's really beautiful. I had the chance to revisit last week, and I was happily surprised because things have changed. It's like and in a way, it's like the energy there's this positive energy uh, that's there, present in Casa Gordo Museum, and it's just so alive and in a very quiet, peaceful, and romantic way. So, for those of you who are thinking of extending your Valentine's Day, try the Casa Gordo Museum. And in fact, there is a cafe inside the casa,
Yes.
the property.
In the adjacent building of Casa Gordo, so it's like a Boss Coffee. So we have Boss Coffee there too, the cafe.
Very, very homegrown, very Cebu. So yeah, it's you can actually have your meetings there, have conversations, and have a date. So I'd like to move back, or well, come back to the rights of love, and how even with love, there's some sort of a script. There I'm
Mm.
saying that because for me as a director who works with scripts and plays and all that, there's we say it's script because there's actually more of a director's notes of this is what you have to do, this is what's next. So I've mentioned earlier in the opening, it's like, okay, in colonial Philippines, obviously we've followed the Spanish way of doing things. So there's harana. So I would be thinking that there are things that you have to do first before you can even date a person or ask a person to marry you. So we've mentioned harana. Pamamanhikan is like so much later, na, no?
Yeah.
So maybe you can share with us what of these rituals are being can we recall or can we witness uh, in the performance of Rites of Love?
Okay. So I think before I go to the what are the rituals that we present, but like also to share our thought process before when
That would be
we
perfect.
like
Yes.
when we were like, because I was also there in its inception, its
Mm-hmm.
conceptualization, and we were really figuring out like where does the ritual begin, because
Mm-hmm.
love or romantic encounters can begin in many forms. Like some would have like they would lock, in a very cliche
Yes.
romantic, like they would lock eyes to each other in some sort of plaza, or even in the
Yeah.
church, or they would exchange letters, invisible ink and such. But we
Invisible ink. Yeah.
invisible ink, so like like very very pardon for my term, Hokage ways before. It's like ninja ways before.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would like drop notes, like
Without
um
getting caught
yeah,
by
without
your
getting caught.
parents
Yeah.
and all that.
And there
I'm
are
sure that still happens now
yeah,
these
and
days.
there are stories like they usually have romantic encounters in the
Mm-hmm.
church, because it's really the public place. The public place around during the Spanish period was really the church. But when we were doing the thought process, it was like, I think that's more of a that's like that's not essentially a ritual. That's actually more of a stage. So we want to focus more on the rituals compared to the stages. The stages can be explained or discussed during a tour, but the performances had to be the rituals, because these are the rituals that are slowly disappearing. Although, I mean, the traditional rituals, but some rituals have somewhat morphed or have been modernized. So, of course, the first ritual many would see in Casagoro in Rites of Love is the harana, the
Yes.
very traditional harana, wherein we showcase. Initially, we thought like, it's a simple harana, yes, but then I remembered, I was like, are we gonna show just some guy singing the song? I mean, there has to be some flair to it. Like I mean, it's already expected. Like the guy is singing a song, to the balcony, like
Mm-hmm.
the girl
The
up in the
lady,
window or
yeah.
the balcony. Then the lady would reciprocate her affection. But then it hit us back then with the team before. It hit us. How about the form of rejection? Because
Correct.
that is something like, of course, you if you look in a movie if you look at a movie, you like see like um okay, so I is reciprocating my effort, my love. But what if the woman doesn't reciprocate? And what are the criterion, or what are the conditions that would lead to a woman like, rejecting the guy? And so that is one thing we showed in the Harana. It's not just how a woman um shows her approval, but it also we wanted to show how a woman or how the lady shows her
Rejection.
rejection. No,
It's
so
funny because I'm thinking about this like, oh, harana. So you obviously you go visual, and so you see a man, and as you say, and let's just imagine it at Casa Gordo Museum. So there by the garden, right,
yeah,
and looking up at the azotea and just starting to play music, play the guitar and singing, and then the woman comes out, and
mm,
as you said, they'll be locking eyes. I was thinking, one of the issues would be, what if the guy doesn't know how to play the guitar? That's one.
yes. So that becomes one of the
That's a challenge.
that's a criteria.
Yeah.
Like as a of course, if you're to look at our culture too, as
Mhm.
no, not only Cebuanos but as Filipinos in general, is like we have inherited this very romantic cultural trait from our Spanish ancestors. No, I mean they've been here for 300 years, so for sure we have already integrated, in the mindset, the romantic cultural mindset has been integrated into our subconsciousness. So it has become a very it's like an advantageous. It's already an advantage. Like if a guy like knows how to sing, or even at least knows how to play the guitar or play
Mhm.
any instrument, and the thing that makes the harana in Cebu unique is that it's often a one man show. Because if you look at harana in other parts of the country, particularly in Luzon, harana is most like, I will
It's
invite
like
my
it's a boy band.
yeah, it's a boy band. Like I will invite my friends to play.
Yeah.
I'll just sing. But for Visayans, for Cebuanos in particular, it's a one man show. It's a one man effort. So you have to bring your own guitar, and
And
you have to really sing your way to the lady's good graces, to her heart. So I think courtship, I think, must is tougher in Cebuano culture.
I'm just wondering, I've even just mentioned, just playing the instrument, playing the guitar, because it can also be something else. But then you have to add that, obviously you have to be the one singing.
Oh yes.
So I'm wondering, does that mean that if you can't play an instrument or you can't sing and you want to pursue someone, can you outsource? you know?
Well, I
Can
think
you actually hire someone else to do it on your behalf? And what would be the basis of how good the performance was?
well, I think it's more of the the effort that really counts. So
The effort.
I'm pretty sure like not every guy back then would have the talent or have the gift of a good singing voice.
And
So
that
he
would
would
be the same now.
yeah,
Not
that would be the
everyone
same
is a
now.
singer. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
especially with the with AI coming up, like, oh, I can just generate a song, so I can just have this played. So it's well, modern times had it easier, so we're having it easier, but
You think so?
I think so.
Something that we will have to discuss. I'll
Yeah.
put a pause on that. Let's think about that. Anyway, if you're listening, this is up next. I'm Sarah Henderson, and we are on TMC 105.1. If you have any questions, if you'd like to comment, we're talking about rights of love, RITES. And we are trying to look into the colonial rituals of loving, the romanticism and in all the efforts that one had to go through just to be with someone. And later on, we will try to compare it with how we're doing things now, and maybe try to reflect on the evolution of from colonial Philippines love to modern time Philippines love. So I'm with Ren from the Casa Gorordo Museum and the Cabilian Center. And we are discussing about the performances that they're offering on weekends, which is the Rites of Love, obviously. This is us trying to see or to witness what goes through, the courtship. Maybe we'll start with the courtship. We've just discussed about harana. For those of you who are not familiar, although I am sure that many are, so harana is when a guy would have to try to woo a woman by going to her home with musical instrument, usually a guitar on hand, and play music and sing along as an offering of love to the woman. I think nowadays it would be like what? I'll just send you a song. Listen
like
to this. This is my favorite song.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm thinking about you. And listen to this. Listen to
Yeah.
the lines and all of that. So, yeah, it could be easier now.
It could be easier, like, even during the 90s and early 2000s, like, if you're just gonna have, like, oh, I like this girl, man. So what are you gonna do? I'm gonna give her a mixtape. And that, as I'm just
Uh-huh.
saying it, like, during those days that,
A mixtape takes
like,
a lot of effort.
it takes a lot of effort. So I
Yes.
think it's still the same formula. It's really the effort that really catches the attention of a lady, past and present. That today, like, for example, like nowadays, I can just share to you my playlist. So, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so you don't have to remix it. You just need to sequence it per song. So, like, you're just gonna share it via link or I don't know, social media. But back then, the harana, sometimes it would go on for an hour or two.
Wow,
Like,
it's a
They could.
concert.
It's really a concerto. It's like a
Yes.
concert. Yeah. So a musical performance, and the guy really has to sing. And sometimes the lady won't be alone in the azotea. Sometimes the mother would be there, or the other ladies in the family, the sisters, the nieces. So they would also catch gaze upon this very romantic ritual, and they were just like, waiting whether the love or the affection is reciprocated. Would
So this
she?
is like theater.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
like theater.
Very theatrical.
Mm.
And the thing is, you're there for the woman that you'd like to pursue, but then there are other members of the audience.
Yes,
You
and they're
mentioned.
also entertaining, the mother, and
Yes.
the mother was like beside of the woman, beside the lady you're courting. Back then, it's like she would whisper like, "I think he's good," or "I think, yeah, you should." And sometimes it's also an added bonus, especially if you're if you're a known personality in society or in the community. So the mother was like, "Oh, you have to like give him a thumbs up because he's the son of a very rich, whatever." Because so, I mean, during those days, especially in the social hierarchy, in the caste system, in the colonial caste system before, it somewhat matters too. So there in terms of social class, let's just say there are many. The harana is all encompassing, whether you're an aristocrat or a humble, a humble farmer. So it's the mode is the same, but it's really the rejection and the approval that's why we really wanted to highlight more on how the lady or the mother at least would show the affection, like would show the the approval, or how would is to be rejected. And my goodness, the rejection before was very very harsh.
Can you share with us, like, how would one know that he's been rejected?
Okay, so this is also presented in the Rites of Love, because first we show the rejection,
Yes.
then next we show the approval. So the rejection goes as simple as, if the guy is not attractive in terms of physical stature, or maybe not attractive in terms of his singing voice or his instrumental talent. So the woman or the lady, or sometimes even the mother, would throw like a glass of water
Oh my God.
on the guy downstairs, or would say, "Shoo, like just get out,
A
we don't want
glass,
you here.
yes.
Yeah,
So
like a
it's
glass
like,
of water. You pour a
how
glass of
very
water.
dramatic. Okay.
Yes, and many over the years, and many even those who go into Casa Gordo and they have witnessed also rites of love, they would also share their experience. Like, my gosh, before back in those days, it's more than just a glass of water. It could be an arinola.
Oh my God.
So
Okay.
I'm so sorry if I
Do you know what?
yeah.
Okay, what is arinola? So
It's like in English
that's a
it's piss
pot.
pot.
Yeah, piss
It's
pot.
a piss pot.
Okay, so you know what's inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the name. Okay, yes. But arinola, yeah,
Yes.
we our lolas had them. Lolas and lolos would have them.
Mm-mm.
Um, that's that's rejection.
Yes, rejection, and there are many other forms of rejections, but I think that's one of the few things like we wanted to highlight because that's what really like catches the attention. Like audiences, oh my gosh, that's how guys are rejected before. I should have done that. Then like many students would say, I think I should do that to the person who's courting me. And I really don't like him back. So and I think that's also one of the reasons why we're really showcasing these rituals is because we wanted also the audience to really think, to really internalize, like, oh my gosh, are we really that harsh before in terms of our romantic culture? And that's when we discuss in our tours, like, because we are in a very conservative society back then, very patriarchal, very
Mm-hmm.
very conservative. So at that time, it was very rigid, and you have to follow a certain social norms that you should follow. Like, you cannot just be like Robin Hood or Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can just dash inside the home of someone and take away the woman you love. It really has to go through a proper process because you are entering into this boundary wherein you are seeking to show your affection and eventually gonna marry this person because once you made that intent that I'm doing a harana to this girl, to this woman, so that is like showing intent. My end goal is for us both to get married and to settle down and raise kids. So that is a very conservative mindset, and that was very common in the past.
And I think we're still stuck at Harana, by the way, huh?
Yeah, sorry.
Everyone, and we've already talked about rejection and approval and all these rituals and so the what is considered as the etiquette of when you are trying to win someone, and from for many of us, we would think, oh, we got it easy. It's things are not that hard because you don't have to do harana. Although people still do that by, when you sing to your loved one, in weddings, maybe like, the one of the spouses would sing to the other as a sign of love. I think a lot of it is like really the effort that symbolizes love, or like a love offering to the person that you want to be with. But let's go back to rejection. And you were saying that some of the members of the audience who actually watched Rites of Love at the Casa Gordo Museum were saying that, oh, I should be doing that to someone who just can't understand and know. Okay, so in the past, we were saying, oh yeah, you just do that, and that's like saying, yeah, that's rejection. You've been rejected, and so just stop. However, we were saying that, right now we are so into no means no, all consent and all that. So if someone tells you stop, you have to stop, and all. And but at the same time, we try to be kind, and we try to be very nice when we even show rejection. I think the labay of Arinola, or the content, or emptying an Arinola to a suitor, compared to like someone just hanging up. these are two different degree
Of
of
rejection.
rejection, but it's still rejection.
Yeah.
You know, it's still rejection. So maybe um we can we can try to look at the other way and say, okay, what if the person was not rejected at all? what
Mm.
what is next?
Okay, so you pass through the first ritual, the harana.
Yes.
So that's tantamount to oh, so we're going out, but not
Mhm.
technically going out because back then
You can't go
you
out.
can't go out because ladies are like cloistered inside their home, so they have to
Mhm.
follow a set of rules. So the next ritual, the next stage is what we call the pamisita. So
Okay.
it's now inviting. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, um, how the man is accepted by the lady, and we show it also in the harana ritual. The woman would throw the handkerchief, and it
Oh,
has to be
okay.
white,
Mhm.
because white handkerchief or white means purity in a sense.
Mhm.
So she is giving this subtle signal that I am giving to you my purity and
Mhm.
innocence for you to give it back, because that's an invitation for the guy to return again to the home and
Mhm.
give back the handkerchief. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
a very gentlemanly way to do,
Mhm.
but it's that very subtle way of inviting the man in
Mhm.
the house. I mean, the guy could come back another day, or he could come immediately to the house. It depends on the woman. Like, I have time, so you can come into the house. But in most cases, it's really like, I will visit you in another night. But of course, the guy is happy. Like, I will treasure this handkerchief. I will have to return this handkerchief. That's why in movies you could really see like something to do with the handkerchief. Like they would
Yes.
really treasure it. Like
Mhm.
they would really keep it. And then on the next stage, the pamisita, that is when like your rite of passage is really the handkerchief, the white handkerchief, and you have to return it to the lady in the home, and the lady invites you in, and that's where you date in the lady's home. So that is the pamisita. So you're already visiting the house, and I think before it has to go through several stages. So there's really a chaperone
Yes.
to the date. So we
Mhm.
also show it in Casa Gordo in the Pamisita scene, wherein the mother is always beside the lady, and the man would keep uh, a very keep some distance between the lady. And there's a corner inside the museum. We call it the suitor's corner. So it's
Mhm.
actually the corner, that area of the house was built for that purpose, wherein the man
Wow.
would be sitting in the single chair, then the lady at the other end of the bench, of the adjacent bench. So that's where they do conversation. And then the man, I mean the mother, or at times the father, would be snooping in on the conversation of the couple. Like they have to make sure like no touching, no,
Mhm.
again, it was very strict, very rigid. But eventually, if you were to think of it today, that is the same as like inviting to the house, meet the family, meet the father,
Mhm.
meet the mother. So that's somewhat almost tantamount in a way. If we're going to compare it to to modern times, that's like the equivalent.
And I think for Filipinos, it's actually common that a suitor would meet the parents. You know
Yes.
how in like maybe the Western world would see it as such a big deal. Oh, you're going to meet the parents and all that. In fact, others would not allow a suitor or the person they're dating or even a boyfriend to meet the parents until they feel like it's the right time.
Yeah.
But for Filipinos, it's like it's very important, no, na we actually ask our kids. You have a daughter. It's like you. Okay, someone wants to go out with you. Let them come to the house and ask permission.
Mhm.
Um, maybe doesn't happen anymore to those who have finished school. But when you're like in high school, that still happens. You
Yeah,
know,
it
a
still
boy would
happens.
still have to go to the girl's house, and sometimes even driven by their own parents, and then knocks at the door and says, "Hi, tita, I would like to, can we go out, blah, blah, blah." Obviously, it's been talked about already because with phones and all that. But there's still that. It's like you still have to ask permission. Parents still have to agree. Um, and then if you're also in the house, you can't be in the room just
Oh
the two
yes.
of you.
You-
So we are still strict in that manner,
Oh
I
yes.
guess.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Based on personal experience, so like I have to keep my distance with my girlfriend
Oh,
back then. So
tell me about that.
so that's why I'm also familiar with the
Uh-huh.
rituals. Like,
Yes.
so because it's really the the same, like the same levels. Like you have to meet the parents, you have to meet the
Mm-hmm.
family, and I think the only different thing is that back then they were very particular. Like they really have to screen the guy some more.
Mm-hmm.
The guy has to be interrogated by different members of the family. But for like in the modern world, like for example, I'll just relate it in my own
So
experience.
yeah, your
'Cause,
experience, is that based on your? Well, you said my girlfriend back then. Does that mean that's your ex-girlfriend, wife now?
my wife now, so that my
Yes.
my
Okay.
girlfriend then wife now. So
Uh huh.
I think the process, I've been through the same process, through the same stages, except the Harana part, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not blessed with the singing voice. So um
So you need to outsource.
not really. That's I'm more of a Western kind of
Oh,
Western
okay.
oriented, but I think that's another point of discussion later on, that the changing norms. But going back to the pamisita, so the guy has to be really screened, and even in old houses before, they're not allowed. They're not even allowed sometimes in the formal living room. They're just really placed in a corner near the stairs, near the entrance,
Wow,
for you to be, that's where they can just,
that's like boundary.
boundary, yeah. So
Yes.
you cannot just
Mm-hmm.
simply enter unless you're a very close family friend, or as what you mentioned before in your intro, like arranged marriage. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's an arranged marriage, just go in. You go into the dinner table, have a seat. So no, it's arranged already.
Yeah.
So
So the
um,
families have all agreed
yeah,
that
so I think that's an
listen.
exception. There's an exception to the rule for the traditional courtships if it's already prearranged, and there are really moments before that. That it usually happens, especially with upper class aristocratic families. But for middle class or ordinary people, ordinary families, ordinary folks, it's those
Mhm.
rituals are commonly seen, like the harana and the pamisita and
But
the subsequent stages.
how were you screened back then?
Oh, well, actually, well, my wife's family was very receptive, and
Mm-hmm.
when they were asking me like, oh, what do you do, and it's like,
It becomes like a
I work,
job
yeah, it's like
interview.
become a job interview,
Yes.
like they might be expecting, like I was like overthinking, they were like they were expecting me to be a lawyer or a doctor, and in the
Mm-hmm.
back of my head I was like, what would I tell them? I'm gonna say I'm a museum worker, so I hope pasar sa standards. So but thankfully they also saw like they go through the process, I was screened, I was questioned, and when they learned that I was working, in a very decent museum, like when they heard of Ramon Aboitiz Foundation,
Yes.
so
Mm-hmm.
there's like, you're under Rafi, so good, so like it that's that thing that's still that's a sort of observation I had, going through the process in the modern day. It somewhat reeks of the colonial legacy we have,
There's
like
still
and
that.
a mix of colonial, Western colonial, and even Oriental Asian,
Mm-hmm.
mentality. Like, oh, you should, you're a are you a college graduate? Oh yes, so
Good
you have a
background.
good background.
Yes.
So that's really something, that is quite common, not only in Filipino culture, but in or in Asian cultures. And the only thing different about Filipinos is that this the person, not even just the man, it could also be the woman. Like, she must be religious, she must have a good background from a good family, and even
Correct.
for upper class Filipinos back then during the 19th century, must have good land. So I think, yeah, those kinds of considerations.
And you mentioned the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, or RAFI. No? Ramon, can you explain to those who are listening, like, what's the connection of RAFI to the Casa Gorordo Museum and to the Kabilin Center?
Okay, so Rafi, actually, we're currently under Rafi. Me and my colleague here, we belong to Rafi because Rafi has been running Casa Gorordo as a museum. They acquired Casa Gorordo during the late 70s, the late 1970s, and they opened it as a museum, the first public museum in Cebu during 1983. And they've been operating the museum for more than 40 years already. And the Kabilin Center is really an addition. It's like a newcomer. So it's like a younger sister to Casa Gorordo. So we just launched, or we just opened on 2022. Oh, sorry, my mistake. 2021, and we officially really opened its doors to 2022. Then we're two cultural facilities managed by the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated, or RAFI, and we are part of what is called the Culture and Heritage Unit before, but today we're now known as Sibloom.
Sebloom.
Sibloom, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the name of our department, which signifies to Cebu blooms. Because how does Cebu bloom? It's through its cultural initiatives, its activities, and under Sibloom, or Sibloom operations, to be exact, we have Casa Gorordo, the Kabilin Center, and Gabi sa Kabilin. So
The Gabi sa Kabilin, I think that's what many are probably more familiar with,
yes.
when it comes to associating Rafi with something. It's Gabi sa Kabilin. It happens every year, and people get the chance to visit so many heritage places, cultural places in Cebu. Hopefully, you will be back here to share with us more about Gabi sa Kabilin. Um, we are up here at Up Next, TMC 105.1. I'm with Ren Alatraca of the Sibloom, Rafi, um, talking about the the Rites of Love. This is inspired by the performance that they've been having and will continue to have until mid March, showcasing the rituals of colonial Philippines on love, courtship, marriages. With Ren is another cultural worker, I would say. She's the program officer of the Kabilin Center. I'd like to introduce Miss Sheena Veralio. Hi, Sheena. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm okay.
Yeah, so I'm sure you've been listening to
Mm-mm.
this discussion we've had with Ren on rights of love.
Yes.
Any
Mm.
Would you care to share your thoughts?
Well, I'm also relatively new, no? So I joined Rafi under the Sabloom team in 2024, mid 2024. So these projects are all a bit new to me. So I was also returning from living abroad, doing my masters. So it was a new, like, very sudden exposure. So the Rites of Love tour I found very interesting because I when I studied college, it wasn't here in Cebu, it was in Manila. And so a lot of them, I like the term ligaw was very
Legal.
prominently used, and
Yes.
the university I went to was heavily Catholic, no? So like a lot of my friends, when they would start dating, they didn't use the term dating. They would say, "Oh yeah, I'm being courted by him." I was like, "Okay." So it was very
And that
interesting.
confused you?
Yeah, it was
Yes.
confusing. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because, growing up in an all girls school, I was never really exposed to that. So it's like, okay, courting, okay, weird. So, but it was nice to see the rights of love in terms of the heritage. Like where does it come from? Like what's it rooted in? Like I see it really prominently now. Like what Ren mentioned also, I had no idea he went through such a difficult process when it came to meeting his wife's family. So I think a lot of those things carry over until today. So my own father, like he I think it wasn't the opposite in his case, no, like it was more of getting my mother, like how, like knowing now, I think my dad's family was quite matriarchal. He lost his father at a young age, and so it was really about finding a suitable wife and everything. So it was a bit the opposite, no, she had to mold herself into the family and everything. So now my family is mostly women, no, like we have a lot of sisters. We're seven girls and one boy. So now if there is someone coming in, it's similar to what Ren had to go through, no. So now if there are any potential male partners, they have to
They have to
go
show
through
the
that.
effort.
Yes, they have to go through that process. So
So
it's
there's
mm-mm,
always
yeah,
we
it's really,
always
yeah.
appreciate effort. I think someone
Mm-mm.
showing the well, we
Yeah.
even have what we say languages, love languages,
Yes.
and all that.
And I see it,
Um,
yeah, really rooted in that culture that we had, no, that we see with the rights of love. So there's really that foundation that is still very prominent, I think, in Filipino dating culture today.
but you see,
Mm-hmm.
we were saying courtship, dating, and all that. Um, uh, I'd like to say hi to Shane Renel Ayong. Hello, Shane. Join in the conversation. Maybe you can enlighten us with how you date these days. Do you still go through courtship? And then I think
Mm-mm.
there's so many young people who don't use the term anymore,
Yes.
courtship.
Mm-mm.
Dating, yes. Seeing each other, yes. Hanging out, yes. Do they
Mm-mm.
actually mean the same thing? And you mentioned that you studied in an
Mm-mm.
all girls school,
Yes.
but you also had the education abroad,
Mm-mm.
and then having lived in different worlds, it's
Mm-mm.
like I would say in culture there's a huge difference. Now after we've just gone to unsa pa man to nga step, we just did harana and then the pamisita, so
Mm-mm.
the visitation.
Mm-mm.
The visitation. So we're still there.
Mm-mm.
And I think I'd also like to get a woman's perspective. Yes. Yeah, I think these days, do we still actually follow some of these rituals?
To a certain extent, I think the foundation is definitely there, no? I think I'm not sure necessarily if this is unique just to Philippine society, but I think there is a pressure really for the man, like what you mentioned also in your intro. There's a lot of pressure for men to live up to certain expectations, no? Like there are men who have a hard time, or like a lot of challenges, no, trying to pursue a woman just because, like what Ren went through also. I'm just a museum worker. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. Like there's still this expectation for them to provide and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I think that's really rooted. Like you see it in the rights of love. No, like they're the ones going out to these women. They're the ones who have to perform. They're the ones who have to be invited in. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, that's still very much present today. And so when I thought that was, unique to the Philippines, but I don't think it is, because when I went abroad, like I studied in South Korea, and there was still also, I think, a bit of that pressure. But I think because the men in Korea tend to be a bit more conservative than the men here, so they're very much, when I get married, when I settle down, I want my wife at home. I want her to work. I want her to focus on, like, that her work is her home. She's raising the kids, she's taking care of them. But of course, for the modern 21st century woman, it's a bit difficult for them to accept that, no? So that's actually why a lot of my female friends, like the Korean ones, they didn't want to marry Korean men because they didn't want to be, left in the house. I think for them it's a loss of independence. They're not earning their own money. They'll have to rely entirely on their husband. So I think that's a bit of the difference there, no. So it's a similar problem, but I think the nuances are very different. But there is still that expectation, no, of the man.
Expectation,
Mm-mm.
always the expectation of, yeah, you have to earn enough, you have to have a title, you have to
Yes.
come from a good family background, a good educational background, you have all this, and then we say that marriage has to be about love,
Yeah.
but we put a lot of criteria.
Mm-mm.
Where did it say love?
Not sure. Right.
Yes.
Modern invention.
So it's like with all these expectations, sometimes, like for example, when during the pamisita, no,
Mm-mm.
so the guy, we'll just use guys in terms of example. So the man or the guy will have to go to the house and will have to answer all these questions about what he does, who he is, who his family is, and things like that, as if that the answers would actually matter, um, of whether he will be accepted by the girls or the woman's family or not. It's like, what is the right and wrong answer? Shouldn't it be shouldn't the questions we be asking be, do you love, do you have good intentions? Do you love my daughter or my son? You know,
Mm-mm.
why are we discussing about work and
Mm-mm.
sometimes even income? I think
Mm-mm.
for me it's like, why are we so focused on that
Mm-mm.
when the first thing that we should be asking is there love in, between the two? And when we ask let's say the mother asking the daughter, do you actually love this person? Not that, oh, did the harana please you? Or things like that. I'm trying to also like understand
Yeah.
what is so important, in a marriage or in a relationship. So we're trying to put like side by side the 18th century versus the 21st century, and we say, oh, we're quite modern now. What is modern? What is modern? So we have gone from from harana to pamimisita. Sakto ba?
Pamisita.
Pamisita. Pamisita.
Nanda pamalay.
Unsay sunod?
We have what is called the pamalay, or
Oh,
or
okay.
another term for it is pamamanhikan. Sorry if I
Oh,
mispronounce
okay.
it, but I still have difficulty pronouncing it until today. But the pamalay, it's now more intense because it's now two families meeting together,
Mm-hmm.
discussing arrangements for the wedding, to discuss the dowry. I think back then
Mm-hmm.
the dowry is one of the most important discussions between two families. Like, they're discussing like, how much will you be supporting my daughter, or how much will be giving the family. So in very, mostly upper class and aristocratic families before, they would discuss, property, land. But
Mm-hmm.
if you go to the rural folks, they would have it as simple as just one cow would be enough for a
Okay.
dowry, or five chickens.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good dowry, or isang or usa ka kahoy na bayabas. That's a good dowry already. So for rural folks, but it really depends on the social. So there's, you could see also a difference in the social strata. But however, the process remains the same. So it's the meeting between two families, and then a discussion also on the assurances that, for example, the family of the lady, they will ask an assurance that the lady would be well taken care of, they will be supported, and in exchange also, what is expected from from the family of the groom is to for the lady to be an obedient, a devoted partner to the groom. So that is yes, it is traditional, conservative, and back then to even think of having the concept of living in, that's very scandalous before.
Yes.
Yes, so I mean, if I were to digress a little bit, even si si Rizal, for example, when he was having his live-in with his common law wife, yung si Josephine Bracken, so his family did not like it. Though his mother, his sisters did not really like it, but that's really it also shows you the different the difference really of the norm yeah, this is a really different norm before. But I think, and this is what we also discussed in our Rites of Love tour, is we also discussed how these rituals have slowly modernized with the coming of our new colonizers, the Americans. So the Americans they're still Western, but they're more liberal, they're more open. So it does. There's also we also discussed or we showcased the shift between the 19th to the 20th, early 20th century, wherein norms have starting to become relaxed. So pamalay is no longer technically pamalay. Two families can just meet in a public party place or
It
in
cannot be a literal
in a restaurant.
house, no?
Yeah. So, but the name is stuck. So when I went through the same process also with my wife's family, so they would say na mamalay ta. Okay, so like I also at first I didn't really grasp because I already know the that's also my advantage when I was doing the pamalay is because the pamalay is because um I know the Rites of Love tour, so I already have an idea what's going on in the pamalay. So
And you just modernized it a
I'm
bit.
just gonna modernize it a bit. We're just gonna have
Yes.
it, in a restaurant. So not gonna have it in our homes because our homes are very far. So it seems like that, and but the name is stuck because that's been the practice for many centuries, and during the Spanish era, and even until the modern age, our parents or our grandparents would still refer that meeting of two families as pamalay or pamimihikan, despite the fact you're not technically in a house, you're technically in a restaurant or in another place.
But I think for like now, no, we have, as I mentioned, there are engagements in public places. It doesn't happen all the time in front of the family of the two lovers. It can be just them going on a holiday, and then it can be here at Tops. It's happened many times, right? You and they use the drone and all
Yeah.
that, and then someone just drops down on his knee and asks the lady to marry him. We have that, but there's no more pamanhikan, pamalay.
Mm.
It's like they've decided this is what we're going to do. We'd like to marry each other. Of course, the girl has to say yes, and that's why you ask the question. And before they proceed with like telling the family, I would, murag, I'm just thinking. I'm sure that era would require you to ask the parents' permission first. It would have to be the parents saying, yes, you may, before you can even ask the
Yes.
lady, or you don't even have to ask the lady anymore because the parents said yes anyway.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, I think the evolution that we've had so far with the rituals and practices that we have towards love is that it just suits us. I guess now it suits us that we can make our decision.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
the parents don't make the decision anymore. But between the pamisita and pamalay, what happens?
Okay, so that's the like what I call the courtship phase, but
Oh.
during those days, technically, a courtship, if successful, is an automatic engagement already. So
Oh,
if
wow.
you're saying like a boyfriend girlfriend
Speed
at that
dating.
time, that's like you're already engaged. You're expected to marry. So sometimes people when even if you look back in historical figures like
Mm-mm.
Rizal, Del Pilar,
Yes.
Quezon, like if you're to read their biographies and their life and their love life, despite its twists and turns, but they always biographers would always say that his fiance of 10 years, he left his fiance of 11 years. So we sometimes would say 11 years, like fiance, really? I thought they were just dating, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where the disconnect in terms of the language used before is that
Yeah.
it's very formal, again very traditional. So if you're on a date, if you're already expressed your intentions to court the lady, and then it is expected that you are to wed the lady too.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of practice has I'm not sure if I say evolved or changed during the Americans when norms were starting to become lax. They've started to introduce an industrial way of courtship, like, oh, you can just have a bottle of Coca-Cola, a sip of Coca-Cola in the ice cream parlor in somewhere in downtown Cebu City before. So that's already a date. That's like 50s, 40s, 50s, even before the Second World War. So that is like the shift. The shift is already there in terms of courtship, and it would really continue to evolve over time. And I think it has been apparent also for between a difference between generation is like what Sheena mentioned a while ago, like oh, someone has to have an effort in courtship,
Mm-hmm.
but
She didn't
despite
even like
yeah
using the word courtship.
Yeah.
yeah
But like Sheena, for
Mm-mm.
you with all these, we call it evolution
Mm-mm.
or just a different version, you know, do you think that for now we should actually start off by even defining what's the difference between courtship, dating, going out, and all these things?
I actually have had this conversation with my brother a lot,
Oh
my
wow,
younger brother. So
yes. How old is he?
he, he's 2 years younger than me. So he's like 20. He's turning 28 later this year, but he's 27 right now. So he recently got out of a long-term relationship as first.
Uh-huh.
So he's been trying to get back out there, and so he's like been asking me like, oh, what's the difference between courting and dating? And I was like, it doesn't matter. I think now, because I think we have to contextualize, back then during the rights of love when that was prominent, women could not own
Mm-hmm.
anything. They
yeah
had to marry to kind of earn. And you see this, even it's not even just, I guess it was probably a result of the Spanish culture, no? So that was brought here. I can't speak to how it was in the
Mhm.
pre-colonial times, but you can see it even in Western media. No, like the women. If a father only has daughters, his worry is now like, how do I make sure they live long without me, because they need to
Mm-hmm.
marry into a good
Mhm.
family. So now, like, we women can own property, we have our own bank accounts. There's a lot of socio-economic freedom, no, that women have now that they didn't have before. And so I think that's why it's a lot more loose now. Like, we don't necessarily have to define, oh, are we in the courting stage, are we in the hanging out stage? So I guess there's a bit of freedom there, no, but when you have freedom there's a bit of then this is what my brother really struggled with now, and like coming out of a long-term relationship, was that vagueness. Now you have,
Mm-hmm.
during my time in college, maybe I'm showing my age here, we had the MU, no, the mutual understanding,
MU.
but now people have situationships. So
Mhm.
MU meaning
yes,
mutual
understanding.
understanding. It's like I like you, you like me. We know
Yeah,
we like
yes.
each other. That's enough. Now it has a different label.
Yes, now I hear situationships. What is, yeah, oh my,
Situationship.
in my
I am
situationship? I was
my
like, oh
god.
my goodness. So I was telling my brother, like sometimes he's like online dating, and then he'll have a girl like chatting, oh, you're cute, and he's so taken aback. He's like, oh, she's so forward. I was like, that's how you have to be. You have to
Mhm.
be forward, because online dating, you have a lot of options. So it's important to
Yes.
make yourself stand out and everything. So if she knows that she likes you, at least she's being honest. You don't have to guess. So recently had his what he called his situationship with someone who was living in Batangas and or
Wow.
Pampanga or
Online,
something.
yes,
Yes, and so
online, long distance
yes,
relationship.
but my brother he lives
Mm-hmm.
in Metro Manila, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still long distance. So they were talking for so long, like I want to say over 4 months, and then nothing came of it, and he was so disappointed. I said, yeah, that's how it is now. So unless you define it, unless you want to
Mm-hmm.
define it, so it's up to us. I think now, like there's a lot more pressure on both parties to define, but. I do feel because that he's a male, there is
Mm-hmm.
still some kind of aspect. Maybe the girl also was waiting for him to initiate this. There's a lot of things online, no, but like for women also, like oh, it has to be the guy so that you know it's
Yeah.
real. Like that was really the parang that was the mentality that was prominent for
So it's
me as
like
a young
we
adult.
we have
Yeah.
choices now. We
Mm-mm.
have we push for equality. We want to be able to step forward and not just wait for the guy to tell us that
Yes.
they like us. We can make our, we can make our own move and we can make the
Yes.
first move and not feel bad about it. But at the same time, as women, so the expectation is also like, but I want you to pursue me. I want
Yes.
you to make me feel important. I want you to do something to make me feel
Mm-mm.
special and not just me trying to do things because then we
Mm-mm.
connect it to our past structures and all that. It has to be the man that has to do
Mm-mm.
all these things, all the efforts,
Yes.
So if I remember things like, oh, if you want to get the approval of the parents of the person of the lady that you'd like to be with. This is, of course, the colonial times, or even in the 40s, 50s, even, because I've heard this from my grandparents. Oh, you have to go to the house of the lady. You have to help around, clean the house, do whatever the father tells you to do,
Yes.
whatever it is. But I guess right now it also goes to like you go to the house of the family and they'd say, "Oh, can you do this errand for me? Or can you drive
Yeah.
us around? Can you cook this? There's
Rene is
still that.
nodding.
There's
Yeah.
still that. It's just that the age has
Mm-mm.
has changed and all. Women want equality. We want to be able to do things our way. But then we still want
Mm.
to be treated as women.
Yes.
And it can be
It
confusing.
is.
And I can understand there's also that vagueness because I think many now do not want labels or are labeling in such a way that there's too much freedom. You don't have to be in a box. It cannot be just you and me. You know,
Mm-mm.
it's I like you, you like me, but we can still go out with other people. And yes, but our training, my goodness. So, but I think I'm probably at a time. Oh my God, growing up like during my high school days and all that. Of course, you get calls and you receive flowers and all that. That was still the norm. There are no mobile phones, no texting, no messages, and all that. That came when I was in college. So you now start to receive texts and you get these short texts with whatever graphic they can do because, we had to pay for a text message.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have all these, and then but these are still, I would say, rituals, because if you don't do that, the person would not know that you like them.
Yeah.
And then the guy would also want you to reciprocate by replying, by sending messages, and all that. Now, if we go back to the rites of love, the performance at the Casa Gordo Museum, we have to go through the different rituals before we get into what many would probably consider as the destination, as the goal, which is marriage, and hopefully that marriage, well, it was expected that marriage is supposed to last forever. And you marriage once, that's it. For richer, for poorer, and all that. So we go from the harana to the pamalay. In between, depends, I guess. There would be so much showing of efforts to get approval of the family. And then you have the, oh, baliktad. Pamisita first,
Pamisita.
pamisita, the visit, and then efforts so that you can get into the pamalay,
Pamalay.
which
Pamalay.
is, for many, I think we are more familiar with the Tagalog version or Tagalog
Yes.
word, which is pamanhikan. No?
Mm.
So, there. After that, does that mean na after the pamanhikan, it's just, okay, we have agreed. Families have to be the ones agreeing, not even the two
Mm-mm.
persons. So I would say, does that mean love was not really the most important thing?
Well, that's the important thinking point of the Rites of Love tour,
Mm-hmm.
because the way we also conceptualize it before is that we want to show, because the way we do our tours is we really invite our guests and students to really think,
Mm-hmm.
like, is this really about showcasing love, or is this about flexing your economic standing at the
Uh-huh.
time? And we usually close the tours and even the presentations with the question that, if you were to compare the norms back then, the norms today, is it does it is the norm do the norms today showcase or highlight love more, or are there still traces of our very conservative traditional colonial um uh, practices, no? Like, we have to marry, I have to make sure the guy is landed so that my girl is safe, or
Landed. That means
landed,
many
or
lands.
many lands, or many, or has property. And
Yes.
as what Sheena also properly mentioned before, or rightfully mentioned a while ago, is that I think the contributing factor also today is that, women are now more empowered. And there's actually a statistic that indicates that Filipina women, compared to our Southeast Asian neighbors and even East Asian neighbors, they enjoy more empowerment
Mm-hmm.
compared to, to our neighbors. And that also reflects the changing norm in our society. But if I were to say, it's not really more of changing, it's more of rediscovering, because um this one I could say a little bit about the pre-colonial, because during the pre-colonial era, women were more empowered. They were not
Mhm.
cloistered in a
Yeah.
house. They were
So
not
what happened? No, in
s-
between.
Spanish colonization happened.
Yeah.
But because
For 400 years. Yes,
Mm-mm.
that's
yes.
that's how
So
we were.
it's even crazy is that just a while ago we had a meeting with a researcher, and we just learned of this new fact that, back then, because Visayans were, painted, they were
Yes.
pintados. Then women, if they had tattoos, it doesn't indicate that, they have killed men, like, like the warrior pintado.
Mhm.
It actually indicates of how many men they have been with.
Oh wow,
And
that's
that
a
is
body count.
that is like
A visible
the
body count.
body count back then.
Mm-mm.
And that was also
Uh-huh.
my impression a while ago while I was listening. I was like, wow, what
So,
happened? So I think that's when, it's a realization, it really hit that the norms really change throughout.
yes.
And that is
Mhm.
also how history changes our traditions, how it defined our identity, our traditions. So from a very empowered babaylan to becoming a cloistered Maria Clara, to becoming
Yeah. Mhm.
a fighting Filipina of the modern world. So you could really see the evolution. I'm talking now more of the women, of the women's role in terms of courtship.
And
So,
I think it hasn't, we'd say that it hasn't been that long ago. We still have the traces of the Maria Clara until now,
yes.
and of course we are a very Catholic country, so we always go to how we see, like, for example, marriages and women's roles and all that. It's like, it's very important to be married to a woman who's a virgin, for example. That's one. And it's like, I remember this discussion of like someone saying, oh, the best gift that a man should, no, a woman should give to her husband is her virginity. And I was saying, shouldn't it be love? Why are we measuring in terms of those things? And I feel like that because we still have that notion in the way we think. So many women feel shame,
Yeah.
when they have to end a relationship and go have a new partner or a new boyfriend, new husband, and all that. And the body count. If in
Yeah.
pre-colonial, that was like, I'm gonna show off. I have a
Yeah.
tattoo to show that, hey, um, until now, I think that it's like such a big deal. I do know or heard of stories wherein men don't want to pursue a particular woman anymore because of finding out that she's been with so many men or have had many relationships. It's as if that's a way of measuring
Yeah.
Like the value.
yes, someone's value. And I think it has to change. It's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
we're trying to claim we're modern and all that, and yet we are still, a big part of us is still following the script of the Maria Clara. You have to
Yes.
be shy. You have and all that. It's confusing, I guess.
Yes.
For the for our the generation now, it's like, hey, we want to be free, but at the same time, it's like up here, but down our legs are tied because it's like we're being pulled by the shadows of the past and that. So, but it is very important for people to actually look back and see, oh, this is actually the rights of love and loving and marriage and all that. It's nice to be able to look back and reflect. It's like maybe how we've benefited. Maybe that's one. And then second is like, what are the good parts of that we'd like to preserve, conserve, no? And what do we need to address and make sure that now we are looking at love and equality and mutual benefit. With marriages, of course, we would say that marriage is a contract. For some, it's a business contract because then that's why and up until now, it's like you have to marry into the correct family or things like that. We hope that the beginning or what started it is love between the
Yes.
two persons involved. But I guess that it still concerns us. It still bothers us that the person who we're with will have to have a particular standing, and in a way we have an invisible like caste system, so
Yeah.
invisible because we don't accept it anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
You can still feel it.
you can still feel it, and at the same time, even people sometimes say, "Oh, she's like she's out of my league." What does that mean?
And I think that's also, if I were to have on that, it's also been magnified with popular media, especially what Filipino media shows like langit ka lupa ako. So
Wow.
I think that's a very stark mind. It's like a mind conditioning. I'm so sorry if I were to say it. It's just I just like to make a point. Like, it's like a subtle mind conditioning. Like, you know what? You have to know your place, and that is actually a very
know
very
your place.
colonial
Mhm.
colonial legacy. And again, this is really much of a product of our history too. So, and I do agree that, as the same with the rites, the rituals of love, so must our perception on love and marriage. In the end, like it should not be, tied to an invisible caste system like we are conditioned to do, but it really, you go back to your core cultural identity, which is really, we're a romantic people. That's
Mm-hmm.
the good thing we inherited. One of the good things we inherited
I
from
agree.
our
Yes.
Spanish
Ang
ancestors.
mga cariñosa and all that.
And
Yes.
that's why in the end of the Rites of Love tour, we also showcase the Balitaw and the Sortido. So those two are actually music cultural performances that involves singing, poetry, and dancing. The Sortido is a dance, a local dance that originated from Bantayan. So we also
Oh,
showcase it as a way to end the Rites of Love
nice.
tour. The Balitaw is more like a verbal argument between the couple, but through dance and
Mm-hmm.
song, and that captures the romantic nature of how we show affection, how we show love.
Is that like, I think one of the very popular songs is like Pasayawa Koday.
Yes, that
Diba?
is, yeah,
They're like it's like a
like a
banter and
banter,
yes.
yeah.
So that's the
That
sort
is that is the balitaw. That's a very
balitaw. Okay.
classic example of a balitaw. And that is actually what we commonly showcase in Casagorodo, the
Mm.
performance of Pasayawa
Oh,
Kuday.
really? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Wow. But I mean, we've learned that song in school and all that,
Yes.
and many still perform it. But we're still here at TMC 105.1. This is Up Next. I'm Sarah Henderson. Kung langit kun unsa to langit ka yuta
Lupa.
lupa
Lupa
ako
ako.
di ta pwede, but if you come to Tops you're closer to heaven. So say hi to Shanshan Arogate Bedoya and Jairus Carosa. Thank you for listening in. We're still talking about rights of love, and we're trying to go into uh adding it modern conversation into modern society, modern rituals, and all that. But I'd like us to go back to the Casa Gorordo Museum. They've been having Rites of Love for the whole month of February, every weekend, and they're now extending it to mid-March. And I'm so happy to
Yes.
hear that. If you've watched it, go back and just watch again. And if you haven't, join us this Saturday, right? So that's
Yes.
every Saturday. Every
Yes.
Saturday,
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
to 5.
3 p.m. to 5 p.m. You go to the Casa Gorordo Museum, and then you pass by Parian, you pass by, the Yaps ancestral,
Yap
Yap
San
San
Diego
Diego
House.
ancestral
The
house.
Jesuit house as well is
Yes,
nearby.
and then you sit at Bo's Coffee there, have a date, bring a date, and you both watch Rites of Love. You will love it. I'm excited for everyone to actually just go and experience it. This is this is performed by I believe this is in
Students,
partnership
yeah.
with
Yes, this is a partnership with students from Cebu Normal University.
students from Cebu Normal University performing in
Mm-mm.
Rites of Love. I think one of the things, siguro, no, we when we talk about love, we talk about a way we show our love. In the past, how many years we talk about love languages, trying to understand what's your love language. It's like, oh, acts of service. Is it things like that? And I'm sure that many of you have tried to research on your own and what your partner's sign language ko, no love language. But I think that for all Cebuanos, our our common love language would be food. Yes. So I would like to go from Rites of Love to what you've recently had it as an exhibition
Mm-mm.
at the Kabilin Center. So first
Yes.
of all, tell us where Kabilin Center is. How can we find it? And how kana lang. Where is the Kabilin Center?
So the Kabilan Center is actually right next door to the Casa Gorordo Museum. So it it was actually conceptualized to house the carrozas. So
Oh,
yes,
okay.
so I'm not sure if you remember when we toured you around, but we passed by one of the carrozas. So originally
Yes,
the
I
Kabilan
remember.
Center was conceptualized
Very
to house
beautiful.
the carrozas used by the Garuda house traditions, no. But since then it has evolved into a cultural hub, no, like a hub for Cebuano culture specifically. So last year in December we wrapped up our food exhibit. So it was about Cebuano's culinary heritage called Around the Table, Haon sa Sugbuanong Lasa. So basically like serving no Cebuano flavors. So it really highlighted the different cultural spaces wherein Cebuano gastronomy seems to grow, no? So we had a section for street food. We
Oh,
had
wow.
also the section for the wet market, and we had the traditional parang delicacies that you find that are unique to that specific or that have originated in that specific municipality. And then it culminated in the dining table area where everyone finds themselves, at the end of the day, it's at around the table, sharing a meal with the people you love or even by yourself. So we wrapped it up back in December.
So it's just a few
Mm-mm.
months ago, although Sheena mentioned last year. It's just
Yeah.
a couple of months ago. Yes. And
Mm-mm.
I think one of the things that we don't realize is how food actually um, defines us as well,
Mm-mm.
as a people and as a community. Well, as Filipinos, we have a particular taste, but then we're now looking into as Cebuanos. So we are
Mm-mm.
trying to identify the different flavors that we have and make them as our own or identify them as the Cebuano flavor.
Mm-mm.
I think you can explain maybe to us like how important is knowing these different flavors and what can we do to be able to appreciate them.
I think it's important to know because it's really tied with the identity, no? So when you understand the food, why is Cebuano food this way? It really ties into everything. There's a lot of intersectionality that comes when you understand culinary heritage. So for example, I think one of the food experts that was our main consultant for the exhibit, Miss Luella Alex, no, she's
Yes,
really known for just
very known.
like knowing everything about Cebu. So, for example, I think the adobo in Cebu no, is known to be dry. It's a dry sauce, and I think that
Mm,
speaks to the ingredients that were common at the time of the development of that dish. Like same with how a lot of our dishes are also heavy with the egg yolk, no, because the egg whites were used in the construction of the old churches.
I've heard
Yes,
that as
so
well.
yes, so
Hmm.
these the interconnect, no, the history of the Cebuano people really connects, and the land in which the Cebuano people developed, like it really connects with our heritage. So I think it's important to understand for a deeper sense of identity, no, as a Cebuano. So we also have a lot of seafood, like from Bantayan, from Olango, like
Hmm.
that are unique to those areas specifically. So in Bantayan, you will find like all these different methods of in which they dry fish. They have like fish tapa, fish tocino, and those are things that I only knew because of the food exhibit, like through encountering it through what our researchers did. And I had no idea that these were things that were only found in Bantayan, no. So there's this unique culinary heritage throughout the island of Cebu, which I think is really important. And, the South has those dishes that are very heavy on egg yolk because of the old churches, and in the North you have a lot of different kinds. No, like there's like the masi that's only found in the north of Cebu, the one in Niloan.
Yes.
So,
You've mentioned about the egg
mm-mm.
yolks and construction of old churches, and
Yes.
I think people would probably be like, "What's the connection?" Can you explain to
So
us? Yes.
when the Spanish came and we had these heavily fortified churches, no, so the churches were kind of like the where the warnings would first come, like if there
Mm-hmm.
were other invaders
Yeah.
coming, so they had to be heavily fortified. So one of the
They
ways
be-
in which they did that when they constructed these big heavy walls, no, was the use of egg white. So these laborers, like also according to Mamloy or Mamluala, like they would separate the egg yolk
egg
from the
yolk.
egg white, and so at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day they'd bring it back, no, to their homes, and like their wives would have to figure out what do we do para, like I think I'm not sure if this is just Cebuano, no, but here like Cebuanos, if you like we are kind of like penny pinchers, so we have to use every single thing, Jude. Like
Yes.
we have to
We
use it
cannot
until
throw.
you, yes, you
Yeah.
have to use it until you cannot use it anymore. So that's what they did. That's what the kind of mentality that had also they had back then. So they reused the egg yolks into their dishes. No, so that's where dishes like torta came from. Like it's a lot of egg yolk, and it of course uses also traditional torta uses the traditional coconut wine, which is tuba as well, which is of course, they were making use of what they had at the home essentially back then. And so that's where a lot of these dishes come from, I think.
Yes, and I think just listening to that list of food, I'm sure that everyone would like to
Yes. And
to
it's
grab some,
even now, like with the popularity of Tusloboa, it's so popular now.
Yes.
And it speaks to that Cebuano mentality that we have to use every little bit of the pig. So that's why Tusloboa exists. No, there's
Pig's
this need to
brain.
use everything. Yes.
We have Tusloboa here in Tops. So if any one of you would like to, you've heard that in your craving, just come to Tops. So I think this is very interesting because we eat, we look at the food, and we don't really ask ourselves, like, where did this come from? How did this come about? How was the recipe developed? We don't go and think in those details. We just go, oh, it's time to eat. I'm eating, and that's it. And in a way, it makes us realize we there is so much history and there's so much thought process in the food that we consume.
Yes.
But we take it for granted, and then if we go back, food, I was saying, is like, that's our common love language. You know how the Cebuanos would go, oh, you eat pa, kaon pa,
Yes.
daghan, anak, gutom ka, or whatever. It's like you have to have food. In colonial homes and all that, was food also like a reflection of, I don't know, it's of like a part of the marriage process or things like that.
Well, definitely. I mean, for one, women in the household during those times were expected to learn the ingredients, to learn how to cook. But of course, upper class households normally had helps. But as cloistered Maria Claras before, they were expected to also know at least the basics, the basic grub. But in terms of the saying, like, a way to a woman's heart is to her stomach. No, so there's although that's more apparent today, but back then there is like a hint that, what, a woman's heart is way to a woman's heart is to her stomach. It also means that you have to be, as a man, you have to be able to afford to feed the woman. So I think that was like the subtle messaging during those days. Like, you have to make sure that you had economic stability for you to have this courtship and in marriage. But of course, I'm speaking in terms of the very patriarchal sense, the during the Spanish era. But in terms of, like during the pamalay, the family always goes out. The family of the lady always goes out. Like, they would prepare the best dishes. They would roast the best pork they have. In fact, the most known and quite expensive or luxurious delicacy before was what they call the lechon de leche. So it's
Lechon
like,
de leche.
it's like a very like a piglet. It's like
That's a
lechon, but
suckling
yeah,
pig.
yeah, it's a suckling pig. So they'll have to lechon it. So it's young pork, so it's very delicious, but very, it's a form of luxury afforded by few households before. But if you're to also know, that before, the community was still very small. It's not like Cebu now, like it's one big city. So
Yeah.
and like at the barrio or your neighbors can come to the house, like you can announce like, ay, mukasal na akong kuan, magminyon na, or even during a wedding, after the wedding, during the reception, like the food is the best. Like, you have to offer so much lechon for one single barrio, no? And I think that is what sticks to us until today, because before, that was a common practice. After the wedding, we have the reception, and the dowry which is discussed in the pamalay,
Mm-hmm.
is now reflected in, as a part of the dowry is reflected now in the handa of the food, the very delicious food. I'm not a food historian, so I'm not really sure what do they actually serve during a wedding reception before, but I think that is really the, like, also the reflection as to how much the man has culminated his efforts in really securing the marriage, of having obtained the marriage, and they would carouse, they would celebrate. But what is interesting is that, again, this type of practice still resonates to us today, which is the after reception, you always have to spend for the catering and all. It's
So
more it's more commercialized
it's
now.
always about grand gestures, right? It has to be big. You have to show and all that. But then I think for modern modern people, for the now, it's like practicality is also a big thing now.
Yeah.
It's like people have started to think that I don't have to spend so much money anymore for a wedding wherein like half of the people are my parents' friends. I don't even
Yeah.
know them, and they're not that important. The most important people are just 30 or 20 or 40, and they're the ones I'd like to spend money on.
Mm.
And practicality has
Yeah.
become a big thing now, and this has also paved the way for intimate weddings.
Yes, and that one
Mhm.
I can also say from experience, because
I really like it by
my own
experience. Yes.
my own wedding was quite intimate.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was preparing for my wedding, I still receive comments like, "You should have invited your aunts, your cousins,
The cousin of your
the
aunt.
cousin of your
and,
aunt." Like, it's like, I'm not inviting one barangay. I'm not marrying. I mean, my wife and I, we're not there to please everyone. We're just there
Mhm.
to please our closest family, immediate family and relatives, and our friends, and even close colleagues. So we're just there. Those are just the
Mhm.
people we have. But I mean, the process in which, like, oh, my mom said that you should have invited your aunt, your cousin, like, again, that is that I was really fuming a few days before my wedding. It's like, I'm okay. This is such a colonial. I was already saying, like, I was like,
Back to being
I'm being
a
back
museum
a museum worker.
worker.
It's like, this is such a colonial practice. Like, why is, like, but then I realized later on that, you know what, this is what they were brought up during their time,
Yes.
my parents' time, and I think that is the same expectation. So that is one realization I had, that in terms of, I'm not talking about marriage, no, like,
Mhm.
the wedding itself. Like, there's really a dissonance between, or a disconnect between, a generational disconnect between your parents and even you, like us right now, in our generation, many would really prefer a very simple, intimate wedding,
Yes.
especially, it's a heavenly ideal wedding for introverts. No, very very very, not a lot
That
of people
too.
to
Yeah.
entertain. So, but it's not only practical, but it's now focusing on this value, of love and comfort, because you're there to be married, to show your love for one another, not to please or not to showcase your status or your wealth in society. You're there to really, it's all about you and the woman you love. It's all about you guys. It's not about your family. It's not about your neighbors thinking like, naka sustulod dyan ni Kalechon, dato dyan ni si Ren,
Oh my
or
God.
lima ka lechon, dato dyan ni ang pamilya ni Sheena. So,
The
like, this is an
lechon is
example.
is
It's a
the
sign.
Like, it's like
of
really a
wealth.
sign, and that is very, like, it goes back. Oh my gosh, I'm transported back to the 1880s. So, but I think that's one thing I could really say from my experience. Like, intimate weddings are not only practical, but they're also a way to really go back to your cultural roots, that you're there, you're marrying for essentially for love, not for economic standing.
and but we would say we would really want to choose love all the time.
Yes.
But I think our idea of love is not also absolute. It cannot be
Yes.
just love because, as the song goes, sometimes love is just not enough. Okay, diba?
And it's
So
blind.
yeah, because also I think I had a oh, that's funny because I was with my batchmates yesterday actually, and they were saying, well, would you actually choose someone who has no work, for example? He might be good looking, he might be intelligent, but he cannot afford, raising a family. Would you go for that person and say, well, love will sustain us? You know, I guess that's where the
Yeah.
practicality also comes
Yes.
in.
Yes.
We understand that there has to be a balance.
Yes.
But I think love comes first, and then from there we decide.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are still at Up Next. This is Sarah Henderson, 105.1 at the Tops Media Center. We're talking about the rights of love from colonial to modern and how we are loving these days. If you would like to join us, just drop your comments and drop your questions. You can still catch us later on YouTube, but we are about to end our live discussion. So now I'd like to ask our two guests. We have Ren and Sheena. I'd like to ask you the question where this show is built around. What is up next? I'd like to start with Sheena.
Well, of course, I would happily plug the Kabilan Center. So this year, not just what's coming up next in terms of events, but in terms of our overall strategy. So we are pivoting. So the centerpiece really of the Kabilan Center is the moving exhibition. So we rotate exhibitions. It lasts 6 to 8 months. And we are planning to launch one in August about Cebuano toys and games and stories. So hopefully we can get a lot of people there. And before then, we are hoping to heavily partner with whoever might be interested in hosting a cultural event or any kind of artwork or any kind of workshop. Like if you might be interested in hosting that, the Kabilan Center is a venue and a platform in which we can support you. So we recently had a metalworking workshop hosted by a young artist, a fresh graduate from UP Cebu, Vicky Tancarido. So she hosted the repujado, which is the traditional metal embossing used in the karoza, but she taught us how to do it on a thinner sheet of metal, which is like yung foil, heavy metal foils. And people were able to craft like frames for pictures of their loved ones, or they were able to craft small trinkets and everything. So these are the kinds of art forms we want to continue supporting. So up next we have a poetry writing workshop, still within the theme, writing on the theme of the rights of love, like the importance of poetry as an art form and in love as well. So we're having that in Feb 28, and of course we hope you guys can join us. So that will be February 28th on Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. so that you have time actually to catch the Rights of Love in Casagordo Museum, also happening at 3 p.m. that day. So that's what's up next for me.
Okay. So for me, what's up next is really, well, I would like to plug, same with Sheena, because I think Sheena already plugged the Kabilan Center. So for Casa Gorordo, I would like to plug in our spaces, because we're still in February, we're still in the season of love. So I'd like to plug in also like our spaces, the azotea and the garden is open for events, especially for wedding reception. So let's celebrate love together there in Casa Gorordo. And for our activities, well, as I mentioned, as we mentioned before, Rights of Love is extended to early March. Hopefully, we could extend it further if the clamor is very great to mid-March, because we also wanted to highlight that, as a very essential element in the courtship ritual is really the lady and really the woman, and it is a fitting celebration, is fitting nod for Casa Gorordo to celebrate Women's Month too, in history and culture. So that's what I would like to pitch. And also for the upcoming Gabi sa Kabilin. But I think that's a discussion for another date. No? Hopefully we can still have a discussion
course.
also.
Yes,
here.
but if you are interested, of course, the Kabi sa Kabilin is always updating its Facebook. So we
Yes.
announced our theme recently, which is
Just
connection.
connections. So let's
Mm-mm.
connect with one another.
And we sure will. Thank you so much, Ren Alatraca and Sheena Veralio from the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated of Sebloom, the Casa Gorordo Museum and the Kabilin Center, as well as the Gabi sa Kabilin. So we've talked about history today, about courtship rituals, about supervised love, about duty, devotion, endurance, about the performance Rites of Love at the Casa Gorordo Museum. And we've examined the architecture of love, how it was structured, how it was sanctioned, how it was witnessed. But here's the thing about studying rituals. At some point, they stop being historical and they start feeling personal. Because it's one thing to analyze inherited scripts, it's another thing to admit you've been living inside one. Before we end today, I need to bring this closer than history, closer than culture, closer to me. I want to step out of analysis, out of history, out of theory, and into something more personal. Because it's easy to talk about rites of love as cultural structures, to examine courtship rituals, colonial marriages, gender expectations, social contracts, but it's harder to admit how deeply those rites shape our own lives. Today, we were inspired by the rites of love at Casa Gorordo Museum, but as I reflected on inherited traditions, I realized that I have walked through several of them myself. I used to believe in perfect love, not naive love, not fantasy, just love that was whole, stable, enduring, certain. I believed that if I prepared myself well enough, if I built my life with intention, if I matured, if I chose carefully, I would get it right. So I waited. I didn't rush. I didn't settle easily. I believed that patience would protect me. And then I got married. And I truly believed this is it. This is the right. The arrival. The story settling into place because marriage, culturally, is still presented as culmination. The proof, the permanence, the promise that you chose correctly. And for a while, I held on to that. But love is not an arrival. It is a daily practice. And sometimes, despite your effort, despite your sincerity, despite your commitment to endurance, the practice stops working. And when my first marriage ended, it wasn't just the relationship that fractured. It was the narrative. Divorce was never part of the script I imagined for myself. It wasn't the version of strength I had been taught. It wasn't the story I had quietly hoped to tell. And suddenly, I wasn't just grieving a person. I was grieving the version of myself who believed that love, if done correctly, would last by default. There is a particular loneliness that comes with divorce, not just heartbreak, but identity unraveling. You question your judgment, your resilience, your understanding of love. You replay conversations, you replay choices. You wonder, was I too strong? Not strong enough? Too patient? Too hopeful? Too unwilling to walk away sooner? And underneath all of that is a quieter question. Can I trust myself again? Unlearning was painful because I had to dismantle more than a marriage. I had to dismantle the belief that endurance equals virtue. I had to examine where I confused holding everything together with loving well. I had to admit that sometimes staying is not strength. Sometimes leaving is. And that realization does not feel triumphant at first. It feels like failure until it doesn't. Until you begin to see that choosing honesty over appearance is its own rite of passage. Learning to trust again. That took time. Trusting my instincts, trusting that red flags are not challenges to overcome, trusting that compatibility is not something you force, trusting that peace matters, and eventually trusting love again. Not because I needed to complete a story, but because I had grown into someone different. When I chose to love again and remarried, it was not from idealism. It was from clarity. I no longer needed love to be perfect. I needed it to be conscious. I needed it to allow space, to allow growth, to allow disagreement without threat, to allow vulnerability without punishment. The second time, I did not walk in believing love would be flawless. I walked in committed to being honest, to being whole, to being equal, to not shrinking to preserve stability. And that changed everything. We don't talk enough about this arc. We celebrate weddings, we rarely hold space for evolution, but sometimes the most transformative rite of love is not marriage. It's self-awareness after loss. It's choosing not to become hardened. It's refusing cynicism. It's believing that love can still be sacred, even if it doesn't follow your original blueprint. When I think about old homes like the Casa Gorordo, I think about permanence, about vows meant to last a lifetime, about marriages that endured regardless of inner realities. But our generation is writing something more nuanced. Some of us marry once. Some of us marry twice. Some of us choose differently altogether. Some of us leave. Some of us rebuild. None of that makes love weaker. It makes it human. I no longer believe in perfect love. I believe in evolving love. Love that expands as you expand. Love that survives truth. Love that does not demand erasure. Love that does not reward silent suffering. Love that invites both people to remain fully themselves. That kind of love is not accidental. It is practiced. It is negotiated. It is chosen again and again. And if you're listening to this in the middle of heartbreak or in the quiet space between what was and what could be, I hope you know this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. So when I asked today, if love comes with rituals, are they serving you? I am not asking as a commentator. I am asking as someone who has walked through marriage, divorce, healing, and remarriage. As someone who had to let one story end so another could begin more honestly. As someone who learned that getting it right is less important than getting it real. Maybe the right we need now is not perfection, not permanence, not performance, but courage. The courage to stay when love is growing. The courage to leave when love is shrinking. The courage to begin again. The courage to trust yourself. The courage to love without illusion, but without fear. This is up next, and today, inspired by Rites of Love at Casa Gorordo Museum, I'm not just examining tradition. I'm honoring evolution, because love, real love, is not getting it right the first time. It's about choosing it honestly, every time. Thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm Sarah Henderson. Choose love that frees you.